Hey golf people, so here's the deal. It's time for me to go wedge shopping. Why? Because I'm a little forgetful and I left my wedges on the 17th hole, both of them. Hello? Hello? So excited about getting up and down from this bunker that I just left them on the green and didn't take them back to my bag. They never got returned, so it's time for me to go buy something new. I just pulled up to Golf Galaxy here by my house.
That's your home! Are you too good for your home?
I'm gonna go take a look and you're gonna come along with me to see what's available and see what I pick. So I wanted to go into this process completely unbiased. I don't have any existing brand deals with any club manufacturers, and that allows me to make any choice I want. I don't have to carry a specific club in my bag. I also don't really care what the label says, and I don't mind having clubs that are a mismatch from my irons or my drivers either. Some people really like to keep that consistency, but for me, I want to play the best club that I can play for me. In fact, if you look at my driver, my 3-wood, my hybrid, all three of those are different clubs, but it's because I haven't been able to find a club or a matching set that does everything exactly the way that I want it. Last time I chose the Titleist SM8 line, and the reason I chose those is because I really liked the feel, I liked the balance and the weight, and I liked that they had a number of different grind options to really hone in on what makes my game unique. And I do think that's important because wedges are so personal and they make such a big difference, your short game, in terms of scoring, and so you've got to have ones that you know what they're capable of and you know exactly what you're going to get from them. You don't want to have any surprises when it comes to your wedges. Of course, Titleist has now updated their SM7s to SM8s, and the SM8s claim to have even better spin for ultimate control, improved distance and trajectory control, and of course that same flexibility and versatility when it comes to grind and sole options so that you can choose a club for you. And for what it's worth, Vokey is the #1 wedge played on tour. Now I wanted to test the new SM8s up against some serious contenders. First off, we've got the Callaway Jaws line, which claims to be the most aggressive groove in golf. So if you're looking for spin with teeth, that's the marketing line from Callaway. This is the club for you. Now I will say that I was really disappointed with the Callaway Mac Daddy line when it came to spin last time I chose wedges, and so I'm hoping for a better result this time. Another serious contender for me was the TaylorMade milled grind. Of course, you can't help but notice that Tiger Woods is playing these wedges. I really like the idea of the milled grind, thinking that those little grooves can help me get through the rough a little bit easier and maybe make better contact with the ball as I'm chipping around the greens. They've also got raw face technology. TaylorMade claims that raw wedges are preferred by tour players. I don't know about that. I'm not sure how many tour players are using rusty old wedges, but I can attest that they provide a little bit more spin. In fact, I even remember my friends dousing their wedges in Coca-Cola to help them rust quicker. So there's definitely something to that. So their groove design is engineered for more greenside spin. They claim it has sharper, narrower, and deeper grooves in the face. So we're going to give that a test as well. And hey, if it's good enough for Tiger, it's got to be good enough for me, right? A couple other contenders that I saw at Golf Galaxy, but I knew just weren't for me, were Cleveland, which I used to love Cleveland wedges. I just don't think Cleveland's advanced in the last decade ever since Roger Cleveland left Cleveland and actually went to Callaway to start designing wedges for them. And we looked at Pings, but again, Ping didn't offer anything all that spectacular. And for me, just looking at a Ping, I don't like the way that looks, and that's an important part of my golf game, feeling confident and liking the way my clubs look when I put them down at address. The last wedge, which I was excited to try out because they've been talking about their wedge technology a lot lately, is Mizuno. I play Mizuno golf clubs, so I really want to love Mizuno wedges and see if they have that same buttery feel that their irons provide. They also have these really cool new blue wedges, which is just something different in your bag. I don't know how well those would hold up in a bag. I know gunmetal doesn't wear well. It usually chips and fades and peels and all that, so we'll see what blue does, but I definitely want to give them a try and see if they can complement my Mizuno MP20 HMB irons. First up was the Mizunos, and I've got to say I did not really love the feel of those clubs. So the Mizunos were almost immediately out. The next ones I tried were the Vokeys, and it had that familiar feel that I like. The weight and the balance seems to be just perfect. Maybe it's because I'm used to it. But they also offered some really good spin numbers. In fact, I was shocked to see some of the action that my ball was getting. I don't know if that would happen on a real golf course or not, but the simulator seems to think so.
SM8's a little less side spin, but a little more backspin, so it's gonna hit and stick a little bit more. I mean,
distance is all about it. Well, the swings are basically the same speed and everything.
Yep.
So if we dive into the stats a little bit deeper, you can see that they were very, very similar in performance. In fact, the only noticeable differences come because I happen to swing the SM8 just about a mile per hour faster than the Mizuno. But all in all, very similar results. And the only noticeable difference I can point out here is that there's about 200 RPM more spin from the Vokeys. So there's definitely more spin coming from this, and the simulator seemed to show that as well. But on feel alone, I've got to go with the Vokeys here. The next two clubs up for me were the Callaway Jaws, as well as the milled grind from TaylorMade. And of these two, I loved the milled grind from TaylorMade. As you can see, in terms of spin, it got the most spin, over 9,000 RPM. I did use the raw version of this club, and that might contribute to those numbers as well. I also hit that club just a little bit harder than I hit the Jaws, although the Jaws has a pretty hot face, it looks like, but of course it lacks in spin. You've got 8,300 RPMs for spin with the Jaws and about 700 more with the TaylorMade, so huge spin difference there. Gotta say, all four of these clubs performed very, very well, and I wouldn't mind gaming any of them. So it really just came down to the TaylorMade and the Vokey, and the decision between those two clubs really just came down to the balance. I just thought the Vokey had a little bit more balance to the club. It was very similar and on par to the TaylorMade in terms of stats, and if I would have swung the Vokey a little bit harder, I might have got those couple extra yards that you see there with the TaylorMade. So all in all, both of those clubs, quite excellent. I would love to have either of them in my bag. Which would you put in your bag? I'd be really curious if you left me a comment down below. Which of those two clubs, or any of the clubs that we reviewed, do you game or would you game if you had the chance? I'd love to know, so leave me a comment.
54, we have the F grind, which is 14 degrees, the S grind, 10 degrees, the D grind, which is 12 degrees.
So the only thing left to decide was which grind. With my 54 degree, I went D grind, and with my 58 degree wedge, I went M grind. Those seem to be the best for my game, but for you, it will depend on what climate you play in and what type of swing you have, whether it's shallow or you take a big divot. All right, so there you have it. The pickup has been made. I went back to Vokey, back to the well, and it's time to play some golf. Let's do it.